Mara, the evil one approaching the bodhisattva in some guise or other, will say to him, "You, son of good family, have by the tathagata been predicted to the supreme enlightenment. This is your name, these the names of your mother, father, brother, sisters, friends, relatives, kinsmen, and relations. Backwards through 7 generations he will recite the names of your parents. And he will tell you the country and region from which you have come, as well as the country, town, or village in which you were born. If the bodhisattva has a dull nature, he will tell him that also in the past he has been dull. If he is keen, he will claim that likewise in the past he was keen. If the bodhisattva is a forest dweller, or begs his food from door to door without accepting invitations, or wears clothes made of rags taken from dust heaps, or never eats any food after midday, or eats his meal in one sitting, or lives on alms food, or lives in and frequents cemeteries, or lives in an open unsheltered place, or dwells at the foot of a tree, or even in his sleep remains in a sitting posture, or sleep at night wherever he may happen to be, or possesses no more than 3 robes, if he has few wishes, is easily contented, quite detached, too. Wise, frugal, soft in his speech or soft in his talk, in each case Mara will tell him that also in the past he has had the same quality. And why? Because since you have these ascetic practices now, you must in all certainty have undergone the austerities also in the past. Through that previous enunciation of his name and clan, and through this present assurance that he has undergone the austerities of the ascetic practices, he will produce conceitedness. And Mara, the evil one, aware of this foolishness, will approach him and say, "Predicted you are, son of good family, by the tathagata to a state of irreversibility from the supreme enlightenment, because you have the qualities necessary for it." 19. Sometimes he will approach in the guise of a monk, sometimes in that of a nun, or a householder, or his mother or father, and he will say, "Predicted you are, son of good family, by the tathagata to the supreme enlightenment." And why? Because you have the qualities of an irreversible bodhisattva. But those modes, tokens, and signs of an irreversible bodhisattva which I have declared, they do not exist in the bodhisattva. One should know, subhuti, that this bodhisattva, compared with those other bodhisattvas, is truly under Mara's influence. And why? Because the modes, tokens, and signs of an irreversible bodhisattva do not exist in him. As a result of this enunciation of his name he will despise other bodhisattvas, deride, mock, condemn, and depreciate them. This also should be known as a deed of Mara which happens to a bodhisattva through the prediction of his name. Here is another deed of Mara which may happen to a bodhisattva through the prediction of his name. And how? For here the bodhisattva, who does not course in the 6 perfections, does not cognize the skandha Mara, because he does not cognize form, feelings, perceptions, impulses, and consciousness. And to Mara, the evil one, will predict that when you have known full enlightenment you shall have this name. When thereupon that bodhisattva ponders and reflects on this name, then to him, who is stupid and without skill in means, it occurs that just this very name which I thought of in my own mind, just that will be my name when I have known full enlightenment. He follows the suggestions of Mara, the evil one, or the deities of Mara's host, or a monk who is under Mara's influence, and thinks to himself, "The name of which I have thought in my own mind, and that which has been indicated to me by that monk, they are the same. That is the name under which I have been predicted by that tathagata to the supreme enlightenment." But those modes, tokens, and signs of an irreversible bodhisattva which I have declared, they do not exist in that bodhisattva. Devoid of them he will, as a result of this enunciation of his name and prediction, look down on the other bodhisattvas, great beings. Through his contemptuousness he remains far from full enlightenment. of him who is lacking in skill in means, in perfect wisdom, and in the good. Spiritual friends. 2 levels should be expected, i.e., that of a disciple or pratyekabuddha. Or, alternately, he will only after erring and wandering about in samsara for a long time, for a good long time, know full enlightenment thanks to this very perfection of wisdom. But if the bodhisattva does not repeatedly win good spiritual friends, to observe, obey, and honor, and if in his new incarnation he does not censure his former ideas and see their error, then only 2 levels can be expected of him, i.e., that of a disciple or pratyekabuddha. Among the monks who follow the vehicle of the disciples, anyone guilty of any of the 4 capital offenses ceases to be a monk. A sramana, a son of the Sakya, and cannot, while in this body, gain any of the 4 fruits of a sramana. More serious still are the ideas associated with conceitedness which a bodhisattva has because of the enunciation of his name, and which make him despise other bodhisattvas and look down upon them. In this way subtle deeds of Mara take place as a result of this enunciation of the name. Not only more serious than the 4 capital offenses, but even than the 5 deadly sins are these conceited ideas which stem from the enunciation of the name. Moreover, by way of declaring the virtues of detachment, Mara, the evil one, approaches the bodhisattva and says, "The Tathagata has spoken in praise of detachment. But I, Subhuti, do not speak of the detachment of a bodhisattva in the way of his residing in the remote forest, in forest jungle, or in faraway places." Subhuti. What then is a bodhisattva's detachment, if it is different from his residing in the remote forest, in forest jungle, or in faraway places? The Lord. If a bodhisattva becomes detached from attentions associated with the disciples and pratyekabuddhas, then he dwells detached, though not in the remote forest, forest jungle, or faraway places. If he dwells day and night in the detachment which I have enjoined, then the bodhisattva dwells truly detached. And the detachment which I have enjoined for the bodhisattvas differs from that which Mara, the evil one, recommends, and which consists in residing in the remote forest, in forest jungles, in faraway places. He who is contaminated by that detachment, who is not lacking in the attentions associated with the level of the disciples and pratyekabuddhas, who does not apply himself to the perfection of wisdom, he will not fulfill the knowledge of all modes. His attentions are by no means perfectly pure. And yet he looks down on those other bodhisattvas who dwell near a village. Although their attentions are perfectly pure and uncontaminated by disciple thoughts, pratyekabuddha-thoughts, or any other ideas, and they have reached the full comprehension of the trances, emancipations, concentrations, attainments and superknowledges. But that bodhisattva who has no skill in means, though he may spend up to hundreds of thousands of niyutas of kotis of years or more, in wild forests, hundreds of miles wide, with no other company than beasts of prey, deer and birds, thieves and outcasts, snakes, rakshasas and a few stray hunters, he will still not cognize this detachment by which bodhisattvas dwell as having set out with earnest intention. But contaminated is that bodhisattva and polluted when he leans on this kind of detachment, clings to it and is bent on it. He will not gladden my heart with such thoughts as these. But that which I have declared to be the detachment of bodhisattvas, that does not appear in him who is endowed with this kind of detachment. And why? Because he is without it. And to him Mara, the evil one, standing high up in the air, will say, well done, son of good family. This is the true detachment which the Tathagata has declared. Do dwell in it. Then you shall quickly know full enlightenment. He, now, proudly imagines that his kind of detachment is the most valuable of all, returns to the neighborhood of a village, and despises the monks belonging to the vehicle of the bodhisattvas who live there, although their thoughts and mental activities are perfectly pure, and although they are well behaved and lovely in character. And he believes that they dwell in a contaminated dwelling. He exhorts those bodhisattvas who dwell in true detachment to live in what is in fact a contaminated, crowded dwelling. But those who live in a contaminated dwelling, he credits with dwelling in detachment and feels respect for them. But where he ought to feel respect, there he feels pride. And why? Because he imagines, ghosts exhort me, ghosts inform me. How can this happen to one living near a village? It is thus that the bodhisattva despises other sons of good family who belong to the bodhisattva vehicle. This person should be known as an outcast among bodhisattvas, a defamer of bodhisattvas, a counterfeit bodhisattva, a thief of the world with its gods, men and asuras in the guise of a sramana.